Hello, welcome to IAS Factor, and this is Arjun R Shankar. Let's continue the Ancient India revision series for your prelims exam, and we are discussing the most important topic here is the Mauryan Empire. So we've already discussed the Mahajanapadas, and now it's time to discuss the most powerful kingdom, the Mauryans. We have to discuss the Mauryans in detail. So this picture is being generated. This is the picture of the apparent generation of Chandragupta Maurya with the support of Chanakya, who is known as the Kautilya or Vishnugupta by different names. So the basic idea about this ancient Mauryan Empire is let's start the session, and we have to deal with the Mauryan Empire because we have to understand a lot of things. What do we have to learn? And this is we have to start with, this is Ashoka after the Battle of Kalinga, because after the Battle of Kalinga it is even called as the Pyrrhic victory. What do you mean by a Pyrrhic victory? A Pyrrhic victory means where you have won, but what have you won? That you have won a great battle, but ultimately who has survived the battle to see your success? It's a negative victory. Why should you be happy? Because that is a concept of Pyrrhic victory. And also you can see if you can also watch the movie of Shah Rukh Khan, Ashoka. If you have watched the movie, you must have seen Mauryas in detail. So first of all, let us understand what do you have to understand about Maurya. The last ruler of Nanda dynasty, Dhanananda, was completely overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya. So definitely we'll have to learn about Chandragupta Maurya first, and then his son Bindusara, and not Bimbisara. We have already learned about Ajatashatru. Bimbi, that was Bimbi, and this is Bindusara, and his son Ashoka the great emperor called Ashoka. Ashoka has different phases, and after Ashoka there are so many other rulers, and the last ruler Brihadrata is overthrown by the next the Sunga, Pushyamitra Sunga. So we have to learn about the Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, and Ashoka. These are the three important things that we have to learn. So one quick things, all previous year question paper. Chandragupta Maurya later was a follower of Jainism. And you can see Ashoka later became a follower of Buddhism. So here comes another philosophical question. Bindusara, Ashoka's father, he was an Ajivika saint. He was the follower of Ajivika. So here we come with what is the concept of Ajivika. Have you ever heard about the concept of Ajivika? Ajivika is also a type of sect. He was almost like Mahavira and Gautam Buddha. So Ajivika is a group of people who believed it was founded by Makhali Goshala. You can remember this name, or whenever you see this name, his name is Makhali Gosala. And what is the biggest idea that they talk about? They simply, because Buddha and Mahavira, they intensively talks about karma, rebirth, samsara, nirvana, kaivalya, all these concepts. But they believe in the concept of niyati. I will not study for the exam, UPSC exam. I'll definitely become an IAS because that is my niyati, that is my fate. So that is the concept. It has happened. You failed in the last examination because you were supposed to fail. That was your niyati. That was your destiny. So do you believe in this? What do you believe in this? Or do you believe in this? What do you ultimately believe? Do you believe in your karma? You believe that you believe in your karma, you work and you earn, or everything is destined, or both of that. You have to work and destiny comes. So you should understand. So Bindusara. So this shows Mauryan Empire, three of them were actually believing in three different religions. So that is one important thing that you have to know, beginning points that you should understand. And next is Ashoka. Ashoka is supposed to have killed all of his brothers. So Ashoka has definitely three important phases. One is the Chand Ashok. And next is the Kama Ashok. And next is the Moksha Dharma Ashok. So three phases of his life. Chand Ashok, he killed all of his brothers to get the throne. And second is Kama Ashok. He supposedly married a lot of his love life, his lust life, his relationship between his wife, his Kauravaki, his girlfriend, his lover, who is supposed to be her wife. So there are different theories on that. Dharmashok, after the Battle of Kalinga, he left everything and he became a Buddhist. So these are the important phases in Ashoka's life. So in this, you need to get some, this is the perspective and his life after Battle of Kalinga when he became a Buddhist. Then his life completely changed and we have to learn about what all did he do to promote Buddhism, etc. The edicts of Ashoka, the rock architecture of Ashoka. So Mauryas, definitely 30 to 40% of Mauryas is Indian art and culture. It is definitely art and culture, which we'll definitely learn. And in this section, I'll complete everything minus art and culture. We'll discuss about the administration, society, etc. Okay. So now we'll quickly go for the facts. If this is clear, we'll quickly move on to the facts and completely understand what it means. So let's start. So I hope you have already got a good perspective. And now we need to, what is the background and source of Mauryan period? Literary source, Arthashastra, written by Kautilya or Chanakya, is popular. It is a book on political, economic and administrative manual and many other things. I've got a few quick reckoner points in the last of this class. While I'll complete the class, in the end I'll tell you about this. Indica, all these are PYQ, by Megasthenes. He was a Greek ambassador at the Chandragupta's court. So Indica and the Puranas, Jain text, Buddhist text. Remember, Mahavamsha, Deepa Vamsha, and there is another book called Kula Vamsha, Ashoka Vadana. All these are Buddhist books. Remember, Mahavamsha, Deepa Vamsha, Ashoka Vadana. And this is also previous year question. The text like Mudra Rakshasa, it's written by Vishaka Datta. So Mudra, it also shows about Mauryan Empire. Mudra Rakshasa by Vishaka Datta, Mahavamsha, Deepa Vamsha, Ashoka Vadana. So what are the archaeological sources? Definitely the rock and pillar edicts of Ashoka. Ashoka has created a lot of rock and pillar edicts after becoming a Buddhist. Do not do this, respect the elders. Many things which are teachings. He wanted the people to see it everywhere so that they practice in life. And you have the first written evidence in Prakrit, Brahmi and Kharoshthi. So all these are scripts. So you have examples of the scripts which are coming here. So you should know the Prakrit, Brahmi and Kharoshthi was also there. Monuments, Sanchi Stupa, Barabar caves, pillars with lion capital, because even the emblem of India, the lion capital is inspired from Sarnath. It's also from the Indian emblem that you see is also inspired from this. And he had punch marked coins with symbol like sun, tree, elephant, etc. So all these are archaeological sources. And moving on to the rise of Mauryan Empire. So Chandragupta Maurya overthrew the Nanda dynasty, with the help of Kautilya. And there was advantage of vacuum after Alexander's retreat. After Mahapadmananda, there was a vacuum which was there. He made use of the vacuum. First to unify most of India under one rule, and his kingdom stretched from Afghanistan, Kandahar to Assam, and from Kashmir to Karnataka. Southern tip, Tamilagam was all outside the Mauryan control. So Kerala, the Tamilagam and the Kerala was not a part of this. So just imagine the largest empire in Indian history until the Mughals had this. Just imagine, right, from Afghanistan to Assam, Kashmir to Karnataka. It's a huge, huge empire. So Chandragupta Maurya, 321 BC to 297 BC. So see how many years he got. He defeated Seleucus Niceta, Alexander's general, in 305 BC. He signed a treaty because even after Alexander went, his satraps, his governors were there. He signed a treaty, gained territories west of the Indus, and Seleucus Niceta sent Megasthenes as ambassador to Chandragupta's court. He became a Jain ascetic and died at Shravana Belagola in Karnataka. He supposedly done Sallekhana. We've already discussed Sallekhana. And Bindusara, 297-273, known as Amitra Ghata, the slayer of enemy. These things are also being asked. Which king is called as the Amitro Chatus? Is also called Amitro Chatus or Amitro Ghata, the slayer of enemies, who slays his enemies. He extended the empire into the Deccan. Except Tamil Nadu, he came down, maintained relations with Hellenistic kings like Antiochus I. So no major religious. He was actually a Ajivika follower. Definitely he was an Ajivika follower. Ashoka the Great. initially expanded the empire through military conquest. The Kalinga War 260 BC or 261 was a turning point, led to mass death. That is why it is called a Pyrrhic victory. He became a Dharma Vijay. So, you must have heard there is a transition called from transition from Bheri Ghosha. Transition from Bheri Ghosha to Dharma Ghosha. So Bheri Ghosha is the long trumpet that you blow. So they were used to blow when the wars used to happen. So after this, he avoided the Bheri Ghosha and started blowing the Dharma Ghosha. So no more wars, only Dharma, peace and non-violence. Ashoka completely transformed after this. So Ashoka's Dhamma and administration, the concept of Dhamma, it is an ethical code based on tolerance, respect, non-violence and welfare. That is his ethical code. It's not sector and address conflicts between communities. So he promoted respect for elders, kindness to animals and generosity. And he made most of the people to turn into vegetarians, but army was still continuing. They still had the diets, but he shifted. And how did he promulgate the Dhamma? Through rock edicts, 14 major, minor, pillar edicts, cave inscriptions in Prakrit, Aramaic, Greek. He created a lot of things like this. When people used to watch, they used to read all these things, so that the teachings get passed, that gets current, that conversions among the people, the news should disseminate among the common people. They should know what is Dharma. And he even appointed Dharma Mahamatras, like civil servants, to spread moral code and look after subjects' welfare. After the death, when Ashoka was gone, these people turned into local administrators and they started getting more power. He sent missions abroad. His son Mahinda to Sri Lanka. Sanghamitra, his daughter, practiced religious tolerance. He planted shade trees, dug wells, built rest houses, built pillars with animal capital, Sanlat. Rest of the things will have to be learnt in the art and architecture. So he did a lot of things like this, Ashoka's administrative innovations, and rest of the things we'll have to look at the mostly at the art and culture things. Then the Arthashastra describes the Mauryan administration. He had a centralized bureaucratic system. Just like we have a centralized bureaucratic state. Supreme authority, the king is a supreme authority in executive, judiciary and military. The king is a supreme. And he's assisted by Mantri Parishad, like council of ministers. There is a prime minister, like he's a king, council of ministers and various departments. Adhyaksha, like there was a revenue head, agriculture, trade, mines, espionage, weights and measures. Spy system was elaborate. So even just like you have the NSA, National Security Advisor, like Ajit Doval, you have a spy system like RAW and IB. See, just like we have a normal system in progress, back then in almost in 200 BC, we had this thing, bureaucratic system, different departments, like we have different ministries. Everything was actually a part of that. So that is how it completely went into that. So you need to know about the provincial and local administration. The empire was divided into provinces, like it was headed by the Kumara or the prince. So obviously there was the provincial administration and there was the local administration. So you need to have a clarity on that, and this is how it worked out. So the empire was divided into provinces, like we have states, like we have different states now. There was a state and the provinces, like we have the federal system. We have the federal system, exactly like the federal system, we had the system, and each province had its own bureaucracy. So obviously when you have a federal system like that, each had their own system of governance, like district level officers like Rajuka, like district level officers like Rajuka, Yukta, Gopa, like village registers, etc. All of them were equally part of that. So we'll start off with the provincial and local administration here. So just like we have a federal system, just we have a central government, we have a federal system. Let's divide it into provinces, which is called as Kumara and Prince. So there was also provinces, and each provinces had their own bureaucracy. That means they were self-sufficient, they were self-reliant in their own administrative system. And district level officers like Rajuka, revenue, Yukta, record keeping, Gopa, village register. So just like a administrative system that we now have, even in those times in BC, Mauryan period had all of this. So that is something that you have to remember in this. And look at the army. We've already dealt about the army of Mahapadmananda and how he was able to give a counter resistance to Alexander the Great in that time. And after that, you have a large standing army, close to around 6 lakhs infantry, 30,000 cavalry, and almost 9,000 elephants, as per Megasthenes Indica. So Indica clearly gives the account of all of this. And again, it is controlled by a war office, just like we have the National Security Advisor. They have a Ministry of War, just like they have a war office with 6 boats, separate boats like Army, Navy, Air Force, NSG, Coast Guard. Likewise, they have the Department of Elephants, Chariots, Infantry, Cavalry, Navy, and also Transport. So that is that important. They have city administration. So, one thing I wanted to communicate is, because if you want to tell all the important facts pertaining to the Mauryan Empire, it will even take classes and classes to complete, because the administration is so bigger, it's very deep. So economic, and they are state controlled economy. They regulated trade, agriculture, wages, guilds, maintained royal monopolies like mining, liquor, salt, was all done by the central government, the kingship. Just like we have a modern system, exactly the same thing. Irrigation projects are mentioned, and taxation, the bali based on tribute, and also the land revenue was also calculated on this basis. So land revenue and the taxation system is all on the same level. So this is how you try to calculate. And look at the social structure and the stratigraphy. So you'll understand the rigid Varna system continued. Even though you talk about egalitarianism, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahman, the caste system was very rigid. Ashoka promoted non-discrimination, but structural inequality existed. Always remember that point. And the role of women, again, limited, but Ashoka mentions welfare and women in children in edicts, but definitely the role is limited. And how do you think the decline of Mauryan Empire really happened? One thing, the main theory is Ashoka's successors were weak, lost northwestern territories to the Indo-Greek people. So by this time, another group of people started coming to India, and after Chandragupta, Bindusara, Ashoka, there was no central figure who could match that kind of administration or capacity. So definitely weak successors ruined the empire. And obviously the centralized administration became difficult to sustain. So when there is no king, this happens. And overemphasis on non-violence weakened the army, because army was just for the namesake. There were no more battles after Battle of Kalinga. They were simply existing. And the Brahmanical reaction against Buddhist leanings may have contributed to the elite support. So suddenly Ashoka turned into Buddhism. So the people, the Brahmins who were supported the administration, completely had a dislike towards Ashoka. So that created a Brahmanical reaction. Romila Thapa mentions this Brahmanical reaction. So the last ruler, Brihadratha, was killed by his general, Pushyamitra Sunga. Obviously, he founded the new empire. He was the general, the last ruler. He killed him and finally started his own empire. That was the Sungas. The Sungas and Kanvas are the next important models that we have to learn. So from that point, that is the point at which we call it as the post-Mauryan period. So let's learn some random points to finish off this. They had the dual capital model. That means Pataliputra was the imperial capital. Takshila, Ujjain, Tosali was the provincial capital with autonomy. They had their own powers. So the imperial capital was Pataliputra. Even in provinces, they had capital like Takshila, Ujjain, and Tosali. And the use of Prakrit over Sanskrit aimed at mass communication, not elite. So this is also important. Even Buddha and Mahavira, they also use the common people's language. This is a 2013 question. Barabar caves. It is a type of cave. It was donated to Ajivika sect by Ashoka, which shows Ashoka was more liberal and tolerant. He had immense tolerance for other religions and followings. And Chandragupta's conversion to Jainism is all symbolism. So these are dual capital model. Let's understand these are some of the important points to be learnt. And next is Ashoka tailored his edicts. In northwest Kandahar regions, edicts were in Greek and Aramaic. Just because it is a northwestern India, there is no point in writing in the local script, because those regions are international regions which had access to international regions. That is why they were written in Greek and Aramaic. This can be remembered. In central and eastern India, they were written in Prakrit and in Brahmi. So this shows sophisticated linguistic policy for governance. So his governance had all those languages. So this can be this is a pre-IQ, Greek and Aramaic in northwest, and Prakrit and Brahmi in the central India. And even though the non-Vedic, Ashoka was a Buddhist, he supported Ajivikas, Barabar caves, Jains, Brahmanas. So all this, remember these points, Ajivikas. I've already told you about Niyati, Makhali, Goshala, etc. So that brings the larger point here. And what is Arthashastra's view of state control? Arthashastra attributed Kautilya proposed heavy taxation. So taxation was not, in Vedic time it was voluntary offering, but this time it was heavy taxation. 20% produce from agriculture. Just like we say we have 18% GST. They had 20% on the agriculture itself. State monopolies in mining, liquor and salt was state monopoly. Just like we have railway, few things. It was not privatized. It was not it is not liberalized. Strict provisions of guilds and trade routes, espionage, surveillance, legal regulation, police state model. They had more of a police state model. This can be a thing. Arthashastra also mentioned Mauryas had a police state model. Everything was regulated. Remember that. It was not welfare state. It was more of a police state model. Okay. And moving on to the next important thing is regarding the he never challenged. Always remember, Ashoka never directly challenged the Varna order. Even though he emphasized compassion and equal treatment, he actually gave the Buddhist Dharma equality, but he never challenged the Varna system. That he never said that Brahmin, Shudra, Vaishya are all equal. He maintained that rigid Varna system. Even though he said compassion and equal treatment was meted out to children, women, etc., according to his Buddhist principle, he never challenged the Varna order. His Dhamma was more of ethical conduct rather than a social reform. Very important to be noted. Ashoka believed it was an ethical conduct. You should do this, you should do that. But it was not a social reform movement. It was ethical conduct. Very, very, very important. Such questions can be asked. And Ashoka's international diplomacy. He also had his international relations. On his epigraphic records, he sent emissaries. He had sent emissaries to Antiochus of Syria, Ptolemy II of Egypt, the Magas of Cyrene, Alexander of Epirus. So he had sent emissaries to all of these kings, which shows that he maintained his diplomatic relations throughout. So what about the economic burden and the decline portion? So you can see the maintenance of this large bureaucracy and the standing army made it very, very difficult. Obviously, this involves a lot of money. This lot of money is being spent on that. Some scholars even believe that as anti-military Dhamma may have weakened state defenses, contributing to the loss. So number one, the maintenance, bureaucracy and the army became huge money, and moreover, he is not fighting anything. It's just maintenance only. So that is the most important things. And last one, from a political science, also from a quick point, you can some random things about Arthashastra that you should know about. You should know Chanakya or Kautilya's Arthashastra. Let's take some quick points. Attributed to Kautilya, number one, he was advisor to Chandragupta Maurya II, composed around 4th century BC, around 320. Correct? It was written in Sanskrit, not it is an elite language. Meaning, Artha means wealth, material well-being, Shastra means science. It is a guide to managing the state and economy. Very, very, very important. State economy. So what did Arthashastra deal with? Number one, it dealt with statecraft and governance. It dealt with the statecraft and governance. Obviously, king is the central authority. Emphasizes the Dandaniti, punishment or force for maintaining order. Espionage, alliance, diplomatic maneuvering, everything that we now have, statecraft. It is also a book of state. So also it's a book of statecrafts, governance, international relations. It is also a book for economics. One of the earliest works on economic management, taxation, revenue, trade, commerce, agriculture, labor, what not. It covers all of this. And also law and justice, legal system based on dharma, customs, royal decree. Because in Mauryan civil service was there. I still remember reading that article, because it talks about the civil services. It talks about the dharma, moksha, artha, kama. There is a test of dharma, moksha, artha, kama. Includes guidelines for judicial procedures, punishment and criminal law. So this is a book, complete book, a book on foreign policy. Introduces the mandala theory, concentric circles of enemies and allies. So remember, concentric circles of enemies and allies was called as the mandala theory. The mandala theory of the Arthashastra, tackling enemies and the real politic, pragmatic rather than moral diplomacy, sixfold policy, peace, war, neutrality, alliance, double policy, and marching. So definitely the political science starts from foreign policy, sixfold policy, the mandala theory, and it also talks about espionage, army, etc. And it also talks about ethics, morality, individual text, everything. So ultimately what happened here is Arthashastra is a complete book which is covering almost every aspect of administration, kingship, and how a king should behave. And it also shows when the king, how many ministers should be there in the cabinet. The immediate circle should have how many ministers. What should king do? What should king eat? Everything is actually in this book. So Mauryas is completely, and after this Mauryan period, you will see that the Mauryas declined. Brihadratha was killed. His general Pushyamitra Sunga started his dynasty. So one is the Sungas and the next is the Kanvas. So there is a dynamic Vasudeva Kanva and Pushyamitra Sunga. So this is domestically. So post Maurya means what came after Ashoka. So this is what happened in India, and post Mauryan externally means people who came outside India. So people who came outside India is also important in this regard. We'll learn this in the next class, which is the post Mauryan Empire. Okay, thank you so much.